This is a blog post from Elon Musk updating where the company stands with discussions about potentially going private. Also, a first clear explanation and at least a more detailed explanation from Elon Musk about the tweet that he sent out last Tuesday where he said, considering going private at $420 a share, funding secured. And it's those last two words that got a lot of attention. In the blog post, and we're not going to read all of it because it's fairly lengthy here, he talks about why he wrote funding secured, and he brings up the fact that there have been a couple of meetings with the Saudi investment fund, and in this announcement, or this blog post where he talks about this, one of the things he says is that he left a July 31st meeting with no question that a deal with the Saudi sovereign fund could be closed and that it was just a matter of getting the process moving. This is Elon Musk's own words. He writes, "This is why I referred to, quote, funding secured in the August 7th announcement." So there you have it. Elon Musk going on to saying that there are continuing discussions between Tesla and the Saudi sovereign fund about the possibility of them providing funding for taking the company private. But this blog post, essentially, this is Elon Musk and Tesla's way of saying, here's a few more details so that people understand why I wrote funding secured, and therefore you have an understanding of what was going on last Tuesday and where the company is right now in terms of discussions with the Saudi sovereign fund and other potential investors, though they don't go into detail on who those other potential investors might be in terms of funding taking the company private. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, well, Phil, it's very interesting. There's a paragraph here talking about let's not get caught up in the 70 billion number. 2/3 of the people would maybe roll into a new company. So the actual amount is, I would say, within reason of what the Saudis and banks would give them, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. And I think what they're trying to do, Jim, this is all part of that massaging the market right now. It's about coming out there and saying, look, that 70 billion, that's a little bit extreme relative to what people might be expecting. We think that it's going to be a much more manageable funding area and funding term. And therefore, I think, as you mentioned, this is something that potentially could happen if you bring the Saudis in and others into it as well. But let's be clear, we're a long ways from that happening. I think some people were thinking that perhaps there would be an 8K filing with some more clear details in terms of financials. That's not going to happen anytime soon, I don't think.
Right. Interesting quotes here, though. I left the July 31st meeting with no question that a deal with the Saudi sovereign fund could be closed and that it was just a matter of getting the process moving. That's why I referred to funding secured. And that estimates 2/3 of...
And Carl, it goes back to your definition. Is funding secured mean locked in, or does funding secured mean, I had an understanding, we had a discussion, and they made it pretty clear to me that we were pretty much set. Therefore, funding secured. It's going to be one, I am sure there are already skeptics and cynics who are going, all right, I don't buy this. But this is Elon Musk's initial explanation for the tweet that he sent out last Tuesday.
Yeah.
It does say to me that a tweet, which we know the SEC has already said that the equivalent of being on Twitter is the same as being on, say, Reuters. It does say to me that perhaps, I know this is going to sound a little oxymoronic, that he felt the need that he had to disclose it since he's had these talks. And that if anything, had he not disclosed it, people could say, wait a second, I'm selling the stock and he literally is putting together a bid at the same time. So Phil, in a very odd way, he may be saying to the government, I felt I had no choice. I had to do this because people are selling the stock.
Yep. And what's your fiduciary responsibility as the chairman of the board to come out and to say this is what we're doing? You know, Jim, it's that gray line there, but I think you're reading it exactly as Elon Musk and Tesla are positioning this in terms of discussions were taking place. We pretty much had an agreement in place, not locked in, but an agreement in principle, so to speak. And therefore, it felt like it was time to go public with the information.
Yeah, but it's certainly not fanciful. If the Saudis bought 5%, I've always said, if it were really troublesome, what was going on is that they would have gone directly to Elon Musk and said, here, we'll give you the money. We know you're in trouble. Instead, he said, listen, we'll buy it. And the Saudis bought it in the open market, and they have, they do have pretty much unlimited firepower. Yeah. This is not a poor country. And it's a country that is trying so hard to diversify away from fossil fuels. This would be a great way to prove that fossil fuels are the past, which is what they're trying to show.
Right. What about this estimate that he thinks about 2/3 of shares owned by all current investors would roll?
Well, I defer to Phil. I mean, Phil, you know that there are people who love this company so much, the last thing they would want to do is give up their stake, including many people who came on our air and felt aggrieved that they wouldn't have a chance to continue to buy the stock higher.
I agree, Jim. I agree. Now, I don't know if it's 2/3, but I agree that there is a large percentage of Tesla shareholders. They not only love the car, they love the company, they love Musk. Therefore, they want their Tesla shares, and they want to be a part of that.